In May of 1453, the greatest city on earth was dying. Constantinople's harbor was its lifeline, its last hope of survival. Heavy iron chains sealed the entrance. No ship could get through them. Then something impossible happened. Ships appeared on the hills above. Hi, I'm Theo, and this, how they solved it. They were not sailed there. They were dragged over the mountains. In a single night, 70 warships crossed the hills by the thousands. To understand this, we need to go back about 1,000 years. Constantinople was the most heavily defended city the world had known. Triple walls of stone that no army in history had ever broken through. Every empire that tried to take the city had failed. Persians, Arabs. The Crusaders got in through betrayal, not by force. Walls always held. But by 1453, the empire behind those walls was dying. The Byzantines controlled barely more than the city itself. No armies. And from the east, a new power had risen. The Ottoman Turks of Anatolia. Their sultan was a 21-year-old named Mehmed. Ambitious and bold. He had a single obsession, taking the city everyone else had failed to. He spent months preparing. 80,000 soldiers. Massive cannons. Inside the city, the defenders numbered 7,000 men. Maybe less. They knew the odds. They were probably going to die behind these walls. Constantine XI, the last Byzantine emperor, led the defense. He had one advantage left. The Golden Horn, a harbor inside the walls. As long as the harbor stayed sealed, supplies and hope could still come. A massive iron chain blocked the entrance. No Ottoman ship could pass. The Ottomans hammered the walls for weeks. The defenders fought back. But Mehmed was not a patient man. He wanted a faster way to break them. He studied the map. The harbor was guarded from the sea. But the hills? Behind the city, past the hills of Galata, the harbor was wide open. No one guarded those hills. No one imagined ships could cross mountains. But Mehmed thought differently. He would drag his fleet over the land. 70 warships, each weighing between 40 and 50 tons of timber. His generals called it madness. The terrain was steep, the ships huge. Moving them in darkness, past a garrison desperate to kill every one. But Mehmed gave the order. Not from certainty, from calculated risk. He needed the enemy to doubt everything, to lose faith in their walls. Uncertainty was his greatest weapon, greater than any cannon or sword. On the night of May 28, 1453, work began. Thousands of soldiers and laborers moved through the hills in silence. They laid thick wooden beams under the hulls of each ship. Like rails, they greased every beam and every path with animal fat and thick oil. The first ship began to climb, ropes pulled by hundreds of men at once. Slowly, one ship at a time, the fleet crawled up the dark mountainside. Hours passed. The defenders heard strange noises from the distant hills. The creak of wood, muffled voices, the sound of something impossible. Soldiers looked toward the darkness and saw a distant flickering torchlight. They could not tell what was happening. Were the Ottomans preparing? The confusion did exactly what Mehmed wanted. It distracted defenders. Guards pulled troops from other sections of the walls to investigate. That left gaps in the defense. Fewer guards, fewer eyes, fewer spears. Meanwhile, the ships climbed higher. Past midnight, past 2 o'clock. Around 3 in the morning, the first galley crested the ridge above. Below it, the Golden Horn stretched out in moonlight, seen from inside. By dawn, 70 ships sat on the hillside, ready to slide into water. The defenders had no idea what waited above them. They watched the walls. As the sun rose on May 29th, the defenders finally saw it all. 70 Ottoman ships, descending into the Golden Horn from the hills. In formation, flying Ottoman colors. The shock among defenders, total. They had spent weeks assuming the harbor was safe. Now it was gone. The city's only supply line. Its only hope of relief. Sealed from within. Not from a naval battle, but an engineering feat thought impossible. Venetian and Genoese commanders tried to bombard the incoming ships, but the Ottoman flotilla was already firing back. Cannons from above. This was not a naval battle. It was a demonstration of absolute power. The defenders understood the message. Nowhere in this city was safe. If ships could come from the hills, then any wall could be breached. The garrison's resolve cracked. The Venetian captain was already hurt. Giovanni Giustiniani saw Ottoman ships in his own harbor, and he broke. He called for evacuation. If the Venetians left, the city was finished. Mehmed sent an emissary under a white flag with a simple, clear offer. Surrender now, and the people would be spared. Fight and face slaughter. Constantine called his surviving commanders. They voted unanimously. They chose to defend the walls one more time, knowing they would lose. On the morning of May 29th, the final assault began at the walls. For hours, the defense held, but it was always going to end this way. By early afternoon, the walls were breached. Ottoman soldiers poured in. Constantine died fighting in the chaos. His body was never recovered. By sunset, Constantinople belonged to Mehmed II. After millennia, the harbor that had been sealed just hours before now flew Ottoman flags. The ships from the hills played their part, but not how you'd think. The victory was decided by something deeper than cannons. By psychology. The defenders lost before the final assault even began that morning. They lost the moment they saw ships in a harbor they thought was safe. Here is what matters most. Those 70 ships were militarily minor. They carried light cannons. Maybe 10% of total Ottoman firepower. In any rational calculation, they should not have changed the outcome. But Mehmed was not calculating firepower. He was calculating psychology. He was showing the defenders that nothing, no wall or chain, could stop him. The idea that he found a way to do the impossible. And they believed it. They surrendered not because the odds got worse. The odds were always bad. They gave up because they lost faith in the rules they had trusted. They assumed the city was defensible. Then ships appeared on their hills. And they realized, there are no rules with this man. He will find a way. 27 years later, Mehmed besieged Otranto on the coast of Italy. He used the same method. He hauled ships overland again. Same strategy. The most powerful weapon is not the sword or cannon or wall or chain. It is the enemy's belief that you simply cannot be stopped by anything. Mehmed II understood that, and it made him history's conqueror.